So if we can all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kathy, can we get a roll call?
Yes. Councilman Cypress? Absent. Councilman Larka?
Here.
Councilwoman Lewis? Here. Councilman Mazzata?
Here.
Supervisor Durante?
Here. If everyone could take notice of the exits, there's two behind you, and there's one up here in front of us. Please turn off or vibrate your electronic devices. So we can get right into it. I'd like to make a motion to open a public hearing for Star Ridge Water District Bond Establishment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have Robert Flores here from Delaware Engineering. He's going to talk through it a little bit. Will, I think, did you want to add?
Certainly. Just as a matter of context, what this public hearing is for is pursuant to town law, section 219H. Anytime a municipality proposes to expend an amount of money to improve or to add to improvements of a improvement district, which Star Ridge Manor Water District is an improvement district, the law requires us to hold a public hearing of this nature. And after the public hearing has been held and closed, the next step would be to adopt what is known as a public interest order. Those documents, with a lot of other documents, get sent up to the state controller's office, and ultimately the state controller determines whether or not the project can go forward. What we have here today is, and each of you who are here from Star Ridge received a notice of the public hearing together with a copy of a engineer's report, which was prepared by Delaware Engineering of Albany. And Mr. Flores is here. He's a member of the firm of Delaware Engineering, and he's going to explain what it is that we're trying to do to address the water problem that your district and a couple of other districts in this town are facing. The reason why we have to do this is because in order to be able to bond for this, we have to have these approvals. It is our intention to obtain as much money in grants so as to not have to ultimately go into debt for these improvements. But with the help of Delaware Engineering, we've secured for Star Ridge, I think 1.2 million.
Yep.
1.4.
And the project is going to cost more than that if we go the way we believe we have to go. There's also another grant program that we will be applying for later in this meeting. There's going to be a resolution authorizing the supervisor to make that application. And there's also a class action lawsuit, several class action lawsuits that are pending nationwide against the manufacturers of these forever chemicals that are contaminating our wells. It is our hope that through those three methods or three opportunities for funding, that we would come out as a net cash out for the district. So with that, I turn it over to Mr. Flores.
Thank you. I assume this is on, right? So I'm Robert Flores with Delaware Engineering. And we got the slideshow here. I'll go through it, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. I assume a good number of you are here from Star Ridge, right? Yeah. A lot of heads nodding. Okay, good. So you know you live in the blue area, and you know that's your water treatment plant. Go to the next slide. So just to kind of give you a little history, as the new regs came along, every water district in the state had to collect quarterly samples for PFAS. You did in April 7th, 2022. You got a letter from the health department that said your numbers are in exceedance of the limits. You need to submit a plan that's going to get you provide treatment that's going to put you in compliance. So that's what's happened. That's where it's basically started. Everybody was notified, and There's been a plan that was submitted to started with a letter, report, some revisions, and it's been a plan that's been developing. And this table here, which to some of you the numbers may be too small to read, but it's a summary of the different PFAS compounds and the different results that you received and the action levels. MCL stands for maximum contaminant level. As it stands right now in the regs, the PFOA and PFOS, which are the first two on top, the limits are 10. And then the regs, which will become fully in effect in 29, are the next column, the 4.4s and 10.10 that you see there. And then you can see a summary of the results that you've seen from your wells. Star Ridge in particular has 3 wells. So you can see that you're over the limit, but not by a whole lot of the current standard of 10. And then of course you'll be over the limit of 4. Next slide. So we've been developing from concept to preliminary design. This is where we stand today. To provide treatment, we have granular activated carbon. That's what the GAC stands for, GAC. And so the way the regs, there's a whole new regulation that was put together for PFAS specific, and it requires multiple vessels, lead lag, redundancy. So what's shown here are the vessels that are sized for your system. They meet all the regs. Can treat the water with your wells on. What we're currently designing around is Calgon. That's the manufacturer, and they sell a product called Filtasorb, and the vessels that are sized for your system are 6-foot diameter, and I think it's about 6,000 pounds of carbon in each one. Oh, next slide. So this, again, it might be tough to see from the back row, but yep. So that's your existing water treatment plant is the little building that's kind of in the center, and then that's the proposed building that's needed to house those 2 vessels. And again, there's 6-foot diameter, 2 vessels that are 6 foot in diameter, and all the pipe that goes with it, and doors to enter and exit the building.
Robert, this is the existing
That's
building
right.
here, and this is proposed.
Yep, and those other tanks you see those balloon-shaped tanks, those are below grade. Those are the mounds you would notice from the road. But that's roughly the size in the ground. So that's your chlorine contact tank, and then your pressure tank. So that's right now we're going with as simple as possible, just a straight box split face block building, roughly 20 feet tall, 28 by 22 are the outer dimensions.
Robert, those tanks are completely underground, right?
So the proposed ones are above ground. The
Okay.
existing ones are underground. So those vessels you see there are above ground. That's the top view. Yeah.
How large are the
So each one is 6-foot diameter. A little more than 17 feet.
If you guys just hold your questions, when Robert's done, you could come on up.
And I think the previous slide had a section where you could see the height. Yeah. So those are, if you were standing next to the vessels, that's what you would see. Yep. Yep. So these tables here, I think, if you could, zoom into them. So this is the current cost estimates we have right now. So we have estimated it all in at $2,550,000.
Robert, can you talk about when you're estimating this, are you estimating on the high side, or what are you using to get to this $2.5 million?
So we've had a few projects built already. So that's the reference point. And then, of course, we have construction costs, which are just, going through the roof. But yes, our goal is not to be the low bidder when we create estimates. It's been harder in recent times than it has been. It's harder now than it was 5 years ago to put together good estimates, but yeah. We're not trying to be conservative, but not be too conservative, I guess. And
Where do you want me to go next?
well, so on the right-hand side, you'll see a schedule. On the left-hand side, you'll see some grants that are possibilities, which Will touched on, right? So this is again a summary of the project from when you were issued the first violation notice from DOH. You applied with the town. You were awarded a $1.4 million grant. The town took seeker action. We've been working with the Department of Health to secure their approval of the proposed system, and if a financing is all in place, you would be able to go to bid. So this would be, I would say, if your financing is all in place, that would be the earliest you would go to bid. That's the way that's worked out. So that would put you into construction in March of 2025 and completing in June of 2026. And then as was mentioned already, the goal here is to make this cost as least as possible. So there's already a $1.4 million grant that's been awarded. The town has to do several things to complete that and secure that grant. And one of those we're doing tonight. And then there's an application for WIA, another grant that's possible, SAM, state and municipal grants, EPA grant. These are the grants that the SAM grant is awarded by the state legislature. EPA grant would be awarded by a congressman. Then, of course, like Will mentioned, there's the class action settlement money that's out there. So yeah.
Sorry, right, is
Yep.
the money out? Have there been successful class action lawsuits and there's money out there, or?
Yes.
There have been approved settlements, yes.
Right.
We're just trying to figure out what the scope of the amount of money that is going to be drawn on the several billion-dollar settlements that have been approved by the courts.
And if we were awarded, if we had to move forward with construction and we were awarded, or the district was awarded class action money, that could be applied
Yes.
after the fact.
Yeah, for example, if you had to take out a loan, you could use the class action money to pay off a loan.
Okay.
So that's the end of the presentation. If want to go into questions.
Anyone from the public, if you have a question, just come up, get near the mic so we can hear you for the recording. Ask Robert or us whatever you need to ask. Just let us know who you are and where you live.
Good evening. I'm Bradley Schwartz. I've lived in Storage Manor for 41 years,
Hey, Bradley.
so I've been drinking the water for 41 years. I just want to go over to emphasize again some of the things Mr. Flores said, that the town received a notice of noncompliance from Putnam County in April 2022. That was 2 years ago. So we've been waiting for 2 years to see some activity here. And over this time period, since then, we have received reports from Delaware Engineering. In June of 2022, Board of Health approval was anticipated in September of that year, and the project was supposed to be completed in December of 2023 for $120,000. That was clearly way off. So in August 2022, there was another report. Board of Health approval was anticipated in February of 23, with the project completed this July 2024 for $2 million. And now the most recent report, April 2024, as Mr. Flores said, Board of Health approval is hopefully going to happen in August of this year, and the project would be completed in May 2026 for $2.55 million. That's project completed 2 years from now. So that's 4 years since we received the notice of noncompliance. So since June of 2022, the anticipated time for Board of Health to take the time needed for Board of Health approval has increased from 3 months to 6 months to 2 years. And since August 2022, the project completion date has slipped by 22 months, and the cost has increased by $550,000, or 27.5%. So these are concerns that the residents have. So a number of us have carefully reviewed these engineering reports. The first one was written in, as we said, in June 2022 and revised several times, most recently in April. And I will give some examples of important information that was missing from these reports. The most recent water test data in the reports was from March 2022, which is 2 years old. Mr. Flores had some more current data, but that wasn't in the reports. Annual revenues and expenses of the district were not included in the reports. There is no cost breakdown for the $2 million, and I understand that that's based on comparable systems, but there's no breakdown of equipment, materials, labor, constructing the building, et cetera. And importantly, operating and maintenance costs for this system are not included, not detailed. Disposal of backwash and rinse water is not discussed. Disposal of used filters is not discussed. These are all costs that, going forward, that we would have to pay even if the system were installed free. And just to give some other examples, there's a GAC system flow configuration drawing from August 2022 in the report that shows 4 48-inch diameter vessels, as explained in the report. That's labeled drawing sheet 3 of 3. Sheets 1 and 2 are missing. The report mentions a site plan, but it is missing from the report. A site plan drawing was prepared in June 2023, shows a new 32 by 23 foot building with 2 vessels, as we just heard, with a much larger diameter. But the report itself does not mention the need for a new building to hold the GAC system or what the cost of that building would be.
Robert, Bradley, I don't want to cut you off.
I'm almost done.
But, all right, because it's a lot of information, and if Robert's going to respond, he's not going to remember it all.
He doesn't have to respond.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be, my goal is not to be criticizing or embarrassing people, but we want to get the best outcome. So, interestingly, a site inspection by Delaware Engineering 2 weeks ago discovered that the proposed new building was in a wetland. And I see the new drawing shows that the building has been moved, which is closer to the existing building. So just to summarize, there's been significant amounts of missing information from these reports, which is very concerning to us. So returning to the schedule, do we really expect that New York State and Putnam County Boards of Health are going to approve the project plans by August? And also, has the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation been consulted about building a structure either in the wetland or within 100 feet of the wetland? And have they been asked about disposing backwash and rinse water? So the information that Star Ridge residents have received has been lacking in important details. And based on what we have seen and heard, we're just not confident that this project is going to be completed on schedule and within the budget. We just don't feel confident about that. So personally, I don't see 2 years of progress since May 2022. And that's just my opinion. I'm not saying people were not doing anything, but I just don't see what's been done. So going forward, I would like to see monthly progress reports from Delaware Engineering to the town that explain the work they've done, the work they plan for the coming month, any changes to the design that they've made, and any problems that they encountered. Because my conversations with the town, there just seems to be a lack of communication, lack of information there. So that's my request. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bradley. Yeah, if
Want to
you,
take other questions, or you want to keep going?
it's up to you. If you want to answer a couple of what he had asked.
Sure.
It would probably be best if you could answer some.
Sure.
If you're,
So obviously the project has taken a long time, and it's been a process, right? Sorry, I'm just getting a loud phone call there.
They couldn't make it.
There's just been, there's been lack of money to build it. So That's been like I would say the number one issue for the duration being taking so long, I guess. There's been a lot of players that have changed, for lack of a better word. So yeah, so I welcome, this current board is involved with the project, and I welcome it. And it's the only way to get a successful project is it's a team effort. If there's nobody on the other side, you can't play tennis, right? So I totally welcome, much more involvement. Since Nick took over, we started having meetings every 2 weeks. Sometimes it's not that every 2 week meeting hasn't happened, but that didn't exist before. So that's been an improvement that Nick started.
Yeah. To speak on that, I lost a little time when I got here, but since I've been here, we've really been digging because it's a very large problem, and we didn't realize how large it was, to be honest. But like Robert says, we're going to be getting monthly reports from them, detailed monthly reports. And I believe, too, when we spoke, Robert and I, they're still actively trying to come up with other solutions. So we're not blinded. We're looking as far as we can. So
Sure. I mean, welcome going into any kind of details you guys want, but the vessel solution that we have today, we know will work. It's worked before. We'll remove everything to non-detect levels, right? But since it's such a hot topic, there's a lot of people out there trying to invent a better mousetrap. And so as that comes up, we look into it, we see whether it has any validity to it, So anyway, that's an ongoing process for your project and others that have the same problem.
does anybody else want to come up? Come on up.
Yep.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Levy. I've lived in Star Ridge Manor for 30 years. The first thing I wanted to do is to ask the folks from Star Ridge Manor who are here tonight to just stand up for a second. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in this project from our neighborhood. Thank you very much. Brad has carefully dissected and discussed the engineering report. And being an engineer, he's good at that. But there are a couple of general areas of concern for the neighborhood as well. First and foremost is in consideration of our health. We understand that there are federal, state, and local regulations that the town has to comply with. And we also understand in the last few years, there have been several months where we've been out of compliance with PFOS and PFOA, and that this has to be ameliorated, which is why you're doing the project. Questions on the water committee. I should also mention we formed a water committee about 6 weeks ago, and so there are 5 of us in the neighborhood who have been exchanging information, meeting back and forth, and we also had a community meeting on Tuesday night. Some of the questions that have arisen in regard to the project, and I also should say that I'm not necessarily expecting an answer tonight on this, but these are concerns that the neighborhood has. Will the new system bring the PFOS and the PFOA levels down to 0, or will they just be brought below the new regulations of 4 parts per trillion? I also understand that below 4 parts per trillion it becomes immeasurable, but we also don't want to be sitting here 5 years from now and having another meeting because we have to lower it further. And then how can we be assured that the system will consistently remain below 4 parts per trillion? The second category of questions are related to project costs. For example, in 2023, each home paid $251 per quarter, or just over $1,000 per year. In a change that occurred this year, each homeowner is paying $135 per quarter plus 1 cent per gallon, basically $540 per household plus usage. No one in our neighborhood actually has an understanding of how these fees have been arrived at, nor do we have an understanding as to how the $1,886 figure in the notice of public hearing was determined. So generally, based on historic numbers, our neighborhood doesn't have a clear picture as to how costs have been either budgeted or determined. And the engineering report only provides that information for the first year. The $1,886 is limited to the first year. There's no indication of what happens after that. But now the neighborhood obviously has a microscope on the process, and we're both anxious and interested in those results. Using round numbers and based on the $1,886 figure, the real-time effect for each of us is that our water bills are doubling. And that's only an estimate, and that's only the first year. What happens in year 2 and beyond? There's no indication in the engineering report how the 1,886 was arrived at, and a general question is, were any of the figures that were provided by Delaware either verified or audited in any way? Also, we understand that wastewater might need to be collected and trucked off-site at least several times per year. Those costs don't seem to be included in the engineering report, and we believe those could be a significant expense. When will we have those costs? And then, as a sidebar, there was concern at our meeting for unrelated costs to the project that the neighborhood could face in a few years. We have 60-plus-year-old pipe infrastructure. We're very concerned about these aging pipes. What consideration is being made for that potentially huge cost? We understand that you don't have an answer, but we certainly want the board to consider it. Many of the folks in the neighborhood see our water costs spiraling out of control. And lastly, our understanding is that until recently, the town had a special districts coordinator who we could interface with regarding the water district. Currently, I don't believe there's anyone in that position. As this project moves forward, will there be a replacement? And if not, as questions and concerns arise, who would we speak with?
If you could, if you and Bradley could email us those questions, we can dig in and get you as many answers as we can, as quick as we can.
Great.
But in response to the special district person, I've been working on that for a couple of weeks now. The county is involved, so it's a back and forth process. But we know that we need someone in there, and
Great.
we're going to get them in there as quick as we can, because it's not fair that no one's able to answer your calls when you call and stuff.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
There's a couple easy answers to those. So one is when you design for zero going out. And if you want to go back a couple slides, that's why there's the 2 vessels is required. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 6, but in this case 2. So they're set up in series. So all the water goes through one vessel, then it goes to the other. They're both the same size, and they both are full of the media. So one vessel is sized to treat 100% of the flow. And there's 4 sampling points, so you can track how the PFAS is moving through there. And you track, non-detect, oh, now I detected it. And then it moves to the next sampling port. So when you detect that it's moving, the whole time there's 0 going out, right? 0 detects. So when you see that the media is being expended and you start to detect on the 4th sampling port, it's time to schedule the replacement GAC media. So you schedule it, you do it. That way, water will always go through a vessel, even if the first vessel, something happened and you got backed up. You still have one vessel that's has never seen PFAS at all, right? So one of the items that's in the bottom corner there is that immediate change out is right now estimated at $22,000. So that's to change the carbon on one side. So that's the only time that you need rinse water for these filters. That plus when you start it for the very first time. So when it's time to change the media, because one vessel is has absorbed all the PFAS that it can, Yep, there you go. And I'll get to the second point about how long in between changeouts. But you bring a tanker truck, rain for rent, banker tank, those type of tanks. We estimate it's about 8,500 gallons. You got to rinse. You got to rinse the media. Oh, sorry. Take a step back. The truck comes with the new carbon. They're set up to take out the old and put in the new in the same day. Once you've put in the new, you rinse it. The estimated volume of rinsing one of these size vessels is 8,400 gallons, which is less than one of the Baker tanks holds. So you rinse it. When the rinse is over, you dispose of that 8,000 gallons, 9,000 gallons that you accumulated, and that the process continues, and hopefully you don't have to do that for another 2 years, right? So I say the reason I put down 18 months is one of the things that we have yet to do and we need to do is a isotherm test, and that's where you take your media, you take your water, and you put it into the media that you're going to use in a lab setting, and you run it through it to estimate how long does the media last. In the test, once it gets to 18 months, that's the end of the test. It just says, this will last more than 18 months. And that's the design parameter we're going for.
Was I correct in my understanding of the engineering report that the cost to do that?
Oh, he can't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, they have to get you a call if we could. And Robert, that also depends on flow, right? Because in Star Ridge, the flow isn't extremely high.
What I was asking was my understanding that the cost for however frequently that needs to occur was not in the engineering report? And if it wasn't, do we have an idea of what that's going to cost?
22,000, right, on there. I believe the report said some number, I rounded it. It was 21,000 something, right? And when we had the 4 vessels set up, it was going to be every 6 months. So we switched it to the bigger vessels so they would last longer. So you pay a little bit more for vessels, but the meat is expensive. So long term, it's less.
So that's above and beyond the estimated $1,886 for the first year?
No, that's included.
Thank you.
Age before beauty, right?
Scott Sarosky, Star Ridge Manor.
Hey, Scott.
Is it safe to say that prior to entertaining any of these systems, that the aquifer that these wells draw from all contain these contaminants, PFAS? So, for instance, if you went up Star Ridge Road, individual homes with individual wells, much higher topography, would it be safe to say that those aquifers also contain these contaminants? More than likely. So where historically do the contaminants originate from? Nobody knows that question.
Well,
So essentially, these systems have to be designed because globally, contaminants are in all the aquifers. Would that be a safe statement?
That's why there's the class action lawsuit.
Okay.
and I think there were some companies that created this chemical, right? Like DuPont, 3M, and they put it in stuff, and that's where it came from. We don't know how it got into all these aquifers. You should watch Dark Water.
Okay.
This problem here, the first time I encountered this was in 2014, so almost 10 years ago, right, in Hoosick Falls. And so a lot of the stuff that you mentioned, when it first showed up, nobody even knew, right? There wasn't even a New York State reg for limit, that's safe, for all that stuff. To this day, Hoosick Falls is still looking for another water supply because they've done test wells all over the mountain, and they all have PFAS, right? So They actually found one well which they're connecting today that doesn't have it. But maybe after you run that well for a couple of years, it'll show up, right? Now, Hoosick Falls is a little different story because the people that contaminated are right there. They're still there, and they owned up to it right away. So there was a little less of a mystery. Here, you know, the best guess is that it was just an accumulation of household products and septic tanks and, you know, some fire that happened here or there. Who knows really, right?
So does the $22,000 is only for the GAC media?
Well, it's the change out and the discharge.
So that's the total cost. So it's $3 a pound times 6,000 pounds, and then it's like $4,000 for the process. So who is going to be designing the actual system that you showed there? Is that like a Calgon system that you're going to put in, or some?
Yeah. So, sorry to interrupt you. Just go
Yeah,
back. So the vessels you see there are Calgon vessels, right?
Right.
So a couple different manufacturers sell vessels they look very similar. The reason why we're using Calgon as the our standard of design, I guess, for lack of better words, is because we've worked with them before and it worked. And they supply all the products. They supply the media, they do the change out, they supply the tank. We've also done projects where somebody supplied the tank, somebody else supplied the media, and it can be done, but it's complicated.
So a person I would call a planner was on the site 2 weeks ago, and he said that what you would most likely do is have that whole assembly made off-site on a skid and put in. Is that the plan? Or as opposed to getting all these pieces and valves and pipes and building it on-site?
Correct. So those vessels are made in a factory, right? So you get 3 trucks when it gets delivered. One truck with a vessel, another truck with another vessel with that totem pole of valves that are in the middle. And then, of course, the contractor by then has to foundation, be ready with a crane, put them in place, put the piping, the water that comes in, water that goes out, all together, and then build a building around it.
Oh, so the valve manifold is pre-assembled?
The main one.
Right, and that's just connected to the tanks. Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. Matt DeRose, Town of Southeast, resident for 10 years. My first question is, what comparable projects has Delaware Engineering planned? Any in this area? Are there any active now? And have you submitted those comparable projects to the town? Or can you supply those projects, those ongoing projects, or those completed projects with the town and the Star Ridge Manor residents?
So the closest to you is the town of Lewisboro, and that's gone out to bid and construction contracts have been awarded. Right now, actually, the contractor just sent an email this week saying that they're going to break ground next week.
Robert, what was the cost of that system?
That was $4 million.
And what kind of grant money did they receive?
The $3 million in grants.
And was that a single grant or grant from other sources?
Two grants.
What was the second grant source?
So so the EPA grant was a member item from Congressman Mahoney, and then there was the WIA grant.
Okay, thank you.
So just to clarify, there's no completed projects done where we can go see for ourselves, or that you have results that your planned systems work?
So completed projects is the village of South Glens Falls and the village of Hoosick Falls.
Okay.
There was another one for a elementary school, but they decided to close the school instead.
Robert, what was the first town?
South Glens Falls.
South Glens Falls.
And then Hoosick Falls. One's in Saratoga County, one's in Rensselaer County.
The Hoosick Falls project, did you plan all of the filtration systems for the whole town? Because I know I read deep into the Hoosick Falls project, and I believe that there were filters put in private homes. Is that true, or?
So the Hoosick Falls story, I was there from the beginning. We could spend like 2 hours on it. But when that happened, there were no regs. They just got a letter that said, I don't know what, but by December, give me a plan. And then by February, put in a temporary. And by the next December, put in a permanent. Those were the marching orders, right? Somehow we got it done. And it's been working, non-detect's gone out of there since. So everybody in the village, and their plant's ready for 1.5 million gallons a day, gets treated. The people that are not served by the village but immediately surrounding the village with private wells, they're all contaminated, and they have point-of-use systems.
Robert, point of use is only allowed if there's no public water system, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's just a regulation thing, yeah.
I'm sorry, Mike, did you have more questions?
3 more.
Matt,
Sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
This one's for the town. So the class action lawsuit, since we're talking about grants, if there's no smoking gun, for us, let's per se, that there was any factory in any time period in the town of Southeast, or they can say 3M or Honeywell, or any company that we would be under that umbrella of a class action lawsuit, do we still apply, and do we still qualify for those types of lawsuits in a class action?
I don't think it,
We've already filed and are in the hopper for, now it's at the point of determining what our damages are and how much money will be available to all the participants in the class.
so it's not location based.
No.
And my second to last question.
Ask as many as you want.
So we have an inactive landfill in the town of Southeast that's under priority 2 under DEC's qualification of a priority. It's inactive. Has the town looked into that landfill, because it sits directly? I believe it's the site where we're going to be putting a solar farm, I believe. So that is another question for another day. But has the Southeast landfill been monitored? Has that been some sort of could it be some sort of source of contamination, considering it is near the diverting reservoir, which we live next to a lot of water? So, I mean, or let's just say, can we monitor that? Can we be in contact with Putnam County?
We are actually, that landfill was properly closed according to DEC regulations at significant expense. It's capped. It is monitored periodically each year. We have an outside engineering firm that is under contract to make sure that they monitor it. All the monitoring tests go to Albany. And I have not seen any indication that there's been any violations of parameters, if you will. And being that it is very close to the East Branch of the Croton River and the diverting reservoir, as you've said, DEP as well as DEC are very, they're very observant and militant about that.
I think we also had, those guys couldn't dig a hole without the DEC or
Right.
DEP telling them where they can. So they're not like tapping into anything that's been capped
Okay.
or anything like that.
And my last question was just quick. The VRI company that I guess will be taking over the districts, do they have qualifications to operate a system like this, and have they worked on systems like this? I mean, something to look into.
I don't know specifically if they've operated on systems with this exact type of filter. With the new provider, this is all we talk about, I think, at this
Right.
point.
We've had great
Uh,
success already.
Yeah, well, and this is actually a question that'll segue to a question to Robert, but one of the districts that VRI is working in is in North Salem. I want to say it's called Sunset something. And they have a different type of media, I think, that's being piloted. It's uranium, which I wish it was a different word. But I think they had filters for some other reason for water, and they're stumbled upon the fact that it may remediate. I think there's 4: PFOA, PFAS. There's 2 more. I think it's got 3 of the 4 so far. And Warren Lucas, the supervisor, is working with the Department of Health to see if they can get that pilot approved. So VRI runs that plant, and but they had a building with these filters in it. And you know, I was down there with Bradley. There's really not much room in this building. But to segue into a question for Robert, if this goes, there's a proposed solution here. If other solutions, because this is new, get approved by the Board of Health in the short term, do we have the ability to pivot if one of those is a cheaper option?
You can always pivot before you build, right? And it just kind of globally, right? There's 3 technologies that have been identified that can remove PFAS, right? The GAC, granularly activated carbon, ion exchange, and reverse osmosis, right? They all have their pros and cons, but best available technology is the GAC media.
Reverse osmosis uses 3 gallons to make 1 gallon, or 2 gallons?
Yeah, that's one of the big drawbacks. The other drawbacks to reverse osmosis, basically, it sounds it's a fancy name, but it's just microfiltration, right? Just smaller microbes, right? But you have to pre-treat the water before you run it through the OR filter. And one of the steps to pre-feed it is to feed it through a carbon filter, right? So same thing with like the ion exchange systems. They're the water and the media has to be like an exact match. So a lot of times you have to pre-treat the water to feed it through the ion exchange filters, and oftentimes the pre-treatment involves using carbon, and so you just have more pieces, and then in the case of a reverse osmosis, not only do you have more pieces of equipment, you have a lot of reject water, and in these systems with no municipal sewer, there's no place for that reject water to go. Right?
And uranium is just a potential option in the future?
So, I mean, anything's a potential, right, if you run a pilot. Generally speaking, when you run a pilot, you got to treat the water, and then the water that you treat, you can't use, right? Because it hasn't passed all the DOH regs. So you got to have a place for it to go, unless you have a way for it to return to raw water, if you have a raw water tank. So, and you have to run it for a long enough time. I know, like Westchester County, if you put in an ion exchange system, they'll let you run it for a year, but not a drop of water that you use that runs through those filters can be used for the actual water supply. And if it works for a year, then they'll let you build it to the full scale that it's supposed to be. So, it's not easy.
And one last question for now. The grant is not tied to the solution. So not the specific solution. The grant is to remediate the contaminants, but it doesn't dictate how, despite what we submit.
So the process is there's an engineering report that identifies the best solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if a better solution shows up, you modify the engineering report, and you amend the engineering report, and then it's eligible, for the grant money.
And these grants, once we are granted, we have like 4 or 5 years. If something changes, that we can use them.
So if you could kind of follow your timeline, right? You applied for a grant, you were given a grant, and then they gave you a period of time to fulfill all the requirements to close on the grant, right? So that's why that September deadline is looming on us. And then once you close on the grant, you generally speaking, it's 5 years to complete the project. There's all kinds of examples of things that happen, and you get extensions, et cetera. But
So Matt, I'd like to say out loud, there are many eyes and ears on this. We're not going to install something that's not going to work. Just so you know that. Come on up.
Hello, thank you. Paige Banfield, Star Ridge. Oh,
Hi,
it's a
Paige.
little tiny here. Simple question, just regarding funding and initial grants. Have the CFA grants been considered through the state as well?
So the current round of CFA grants don't have anything specific for PFAS treatment?
I can actually speak on
Yeah.
that. Our Senator, Pete Hartman, told me that's coming. He doesn't know when, but that was one of his suggestions. We actually composed a letter today we're going to be sending to him to try to get him down here to talk to us and to you guys for funding. He can be a crucial part for us, so we're going to do whatever we can to get him down here.
The one grant program that was especially created for this was the Bill Emerging Contaminants, which is the 1.4 million that you got. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Good evening, all. My name is Betty Briggs. I have lived in Star Ridge Manor with my husband, my 3 children, who are now grown, and made me a 7-time grandma. I'm a newbie. I've only been there 36 years. So by Southeast standards, I guess that is a newbie. And I want to first thank Alan. I want to thank Brad. I want to thank Scott. I want to thank Matt and the rest of my neighbors, who I greatly appreciate, for coming forward, doing the work, making the contacts, voicing our opinions and concerns so eloquently. Scott, I did say you, right? Okay. And I appreciate their expertise. Mine is a much more basic question. For 2 years, we've been drinking, unless you can afford to buy, contaminated water. I've sat in this seat, I heard the presentations from the previous administrative body who told you, well, those numbers are high, but they're set really high. It's okay. Well, it's not okay. A contamination is a contamination, and it's not okay. If it were, we'd be below the levels. So for 2 years, in essence, we've been drinking contaminated water, polluted water. At this very meeting, 2.5 years ago, I asked if it's contaminated. I put it in writing, it's on the videotape. How about bringing us in some decent water to drink? That fell on very, very deaf ears. We're still drinking contaminated water. I personally am buying water every week for over 2 years, and it looks like I'll be doing it for at least 2 or 3 more years while paying what I consider a high rate for water. Now, I've been told, you're not that bad. Other areas in town are higher than you. Not much consolation. We've seen increases. When I first came here, our water was quite reasonable. And then we went to $151. And then in a year, 3 years ago, we went to $365. Place was packed. Everybody said, what, are you kidding me? Well, we got to make up because the previous administrator, we have some problems. No real answer. So we were given a big bonus by dropping it by $100 to $251. Still $100 more than we had been paying previously. Now we have a whole new billing cycle, which I don't remember getting any explanation about, and why there is no longer an allotment for water usage. It's now a flat fee. I don't even know how much, other than $1 a gallon. $1 a gallon? Yeah.
A penny.
A penny a gallon. Thank you, Brad. Keep me honest. Good luck. So my problem is the here and now. You're talking about 2-3 years out on a good day. Are we expected to keep drinking polluted water? I understand that it's going to take time. However, you're not drinking my water. I'm not drinking my water. I have knowledge within the neighborhood, and it may have nothing to do with water, but all of a sudden we have a lot of people getting sick, a lot of people getting ailments. It may have nothing to do with this issue, but it does kind of make you scratch your head and go, Isn't that interesting? We're contaminated, and all of a sudden people are getting really sick, having ailments that never had before and never in their family histories. This is happening in our neighborhood. The second thing, sitting at these meetings over the past couple of years, I've heard that, well, Starridge, you're not the only one. We have this problem all over Southeast. There's other communities that are contaminated. So my question to you is, are they actively seeking grants and remediation, or are we the only ones doing it? Because I'd like to know what the competition is to get some of this money, because that amount scares me. We have a lot of retired folks. We're lucky to live here, yes we are. Many of us are we're okay. I'm just gonna leave it at, we're okay. But who wants to pay more than you have to? So my question really goes back to, how many other communities in Southeast are facing this issue? Because I was told they have the same problem. What are we doing?
So I'll want to answer two questions. The first one about bringing in water, and Will can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the water systems within the town are special districts, and they have to be self-funded. So if we were to provide bottled water to everybody, you essentially would have to pay for it one way or another. That's I
Plus
think,
what we're paying for the regular water.
yeah, and that's not a decision this board makes. I think it's just how
You're
the
absolutely correct.
there's really no way around that. So I don't want you to think that there's an ability for us to do that, and we're not. The second question, right now there's one other water district that's been flagged at the 10 parts per trillion, and that's Birch Hill. Delaware's also working on a solution that's very similar, and they only have 24 people in their district. And a similar cost, so they're actually in looking at a much more expensive solution, but they were able to get them $800,000 in grant money as opposed to the 1.4, I think, because you guys have a bigger system. As you saw in those tests,
Oh, honey, I couldn't see that far.
Oh, well,
Please.
So there's most of the water districts, I don't know this, don't fact check me on this, but they have some sort of PFOA. In our town, in most towns, I think that's fair, Robert, and they're just below the 10 threshold, now that they've lowered it to 4. I would anticipate that there's probably gonna be some more that get flagged by the Department of Health, unfortunately, and then we'll be facing the same process for those districts as well.
Well, thank you for that
To
answer. I
touch on
appreciate it.
what Eric said about the grants, it's not a fight. They're 70% of what the cost is. But the other grants are the ones we have to go after to close that gap. Because in my opinion, nobody should be paying for this because it wasn't our fault, it wasn't your fault. So that's why I was saying earlier that we're working on other grants. You know, I don't know how it completely works, but we were told 70% for that first grant. So it's not like Birch Hill would be getting 80, they'd be getting 70 also.
Well, I understand from previous meetings over the past couple of years, this is the problem within New York State and probably way beyond that.
Oh, it's
And my
national.
question was really focused. How many people are we competing against for this grant money? Because the larger number of contaminated going for the grants, the smaller the pie will be, I believe.
But that's a tough question to answer. You know,
Okay. All right, well, I thank you for your patience.
It's okay.
Thank
And
you.
your
Thank you.
diligence. And go get that money. Thank you.
Anyone else? And remember, you can email us, you can call us. We'll keep you in the loop. There's no doubt about that.
And like Nick said earlier, if you could email us the questions, even if they've been answered, we'll just so we can memorialize them all with Delaware, and we'll go through the video as well. Anybody else?
One more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let's say this project goes through and we have, an aging pipeline, distributing this water. You have treated water and then it gets to the house. How do we know as residents that the point of use now is at that level? will they be testing at the point of use? Can we get testing at the point of use? Is that something that you plan for?
Matt, are you talking about PFOA testing?
I'm sorry, yeah, like the testing, what the system is designed to do, now it's going through an aged pipeline through the street, where contaminants infiltrate our, system. Now people can be drinking water that's tested at this beautiful $4 million, I'm sorry, 3.5.
Come on.
Yeah, right. We'll go back to the tape in 4 years. That now we're drinking contaminated water, as it's tested at the site now, it's always going to be different at the house.
The regulation is to test when it leaves, right? So you're supposed to provide potable water when it leaves the water plant. But there's other testing like iron and bacteria that the water system has to sample at the tap. And some of you guys might have been involved in that in the past. But the current regulations don't require a PFAS sample at the tap. If the town wants to adopt that, that's, you'd be going above and beyond the regulation.
So Robert, I have two questions. One's a follow-up to that. It was when we were exploring point of use before we realized it couldn't be used in a public water system. It was my understanding each test is $800.
It's actually 6 now.
6? Okay.
So the parameters that we're testing for keep going up, right? There used to be PFOA, PFOS, and then it was, okay, let's test for these 16, okay, let's test for these 24. So the more parameters, the greater the test cost. But yeah, we're talking in the hundreds for each test. And if you want to do it completely scientific, you do a blank and an actual, and you test both because you want the blank to come back 0. So then 600 times 2, right? So yeah, that's the other problem. It's really expensive. Like a bacteria test might be $30, right? A PFAS test is,
So
600, right? So.
to Matt, and these may be silly questions, I don't know, but do PFOAs accumulate in piping and things like that, or do you not know?
So my only experience with that is what we did in Hoosick Falls, and I just wanted to clarify for everybody. I was part of the team that worked at Hoosick Falls. I wasn't the only one, right? I won't take full credit, but and I worked for a different engineering company at the time. So just full disclosure there. But it was the first one in New York State, so we learned as we went, right? But after the after the temporary system was installed and 0 PFOA water was going out the door, we flushed the water tank, we flushed the water mains, several volumes, tested in the hydrants, basically what you're asking for, the whole 9 yards, right? Because people just didn't know. And the other part of that is there was somebody who was paying for all these tests, which was St. Cobain, right? So, so cost was no option, was not a factor. And there was, daily, weekly tests, multiple places. So anyway, if we didn't see water PFOA leaving the water plant, we never saw it anywhere else. Yeah.
And there was a comment about the infrastructure of the plant. I think, Bradley, you may have said it was 60-year-old pipes, or somebody did. I believe Delaware did some engineering on all the plants on I guess, current state, if you will. Are you aware of any immediate issues that district's facing in its infrastructure?
Nothing rings a bell today, but I got to be honest that we got sidetracked with the PFAS project. So if there was something else that was flagged for Star Ridge, it's not ringing a bell.
Okay,
Right.
so that's maybe one of the follow-up questions we could answer.
Just to bounce off Eric's question, next board meeting on June 13th, we are having VRI come. So if you want to come and ask them some questions, you can do that too. And we'll ask Joe that question so he's prepared. If no one else needs to come up, I guess we're all set. Yep. Just want to make sure. So I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Robert, thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming down.
Thanks, Robert.
Okay? And thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Okay, so we can, there'll be, let me make the motion to have a 5-day response period. Or no?
So leave the public hearing open for 5 days for written comment?
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So we can get into the work session. First thing we have on there is naming the Ace Endico Road. So I got a letter a little while ago from Jack Barron. He is the nephew of William Endico, the founder of Ace Endico, up on Independent Way. And he requested that we entertain the idea of changing one of the names of the roads up near Ace Endico for him.
The one that bypasses the back, the one that's going to open?
Yeah, so in talking with Lori, Lori Bell is our assessor, there is a road called Red Bud. Red Bud. It runs right through all the property that Ace Endico now owns. So I just wanted to talk about it to see if we can maybe entertain that. And one of the reasons I considered this was Ace Endico has been very generous to our town and our local food pantries. They're doing great things. I actually took a tour up there last Friday, and it's an amazing
It's a beautiful building.
situation. Mike Endico really is excited about opening the new store. The store will be bigger, it'll be newer, obviously. So this was something I just wanted to bring up and talk about.
And does that require any other thing besides a resolution, like public hearing or anything like that?
I don't think it requires a public hearing. It would definitely require a resolution.
Okay. Did you have the name that they had in mind?
Actually, I think Endico Way. But,
Okay.
you know, that doesn't, because I gave him a few options, and he said any of them.
Okay.
But Endico Way kind of sounded neat.
I have no problem with that.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah, big fan.
All right,
It wouldn't have any
Is it
impact.
town road? Eric?
Lori,
Is
It-
that road a town road?
is
I believe it
Rosebud
is.
a town road at this point? It's not. Yep.
Oh,
It is complete-
We wouldn't be naming it.
Are we
yeah, can you come
adopting?
out, because if it's private,
I think it's going to be, isn't it going to be public or
No, it's on their property.
the new one that's?
no.
No, not that.
Oh,
No,
oh,
so
okay.
you come up Zimmer Road,
Mhm.
and there was a proposed residential development on the right
Right.
before you get to the
That's
park.
road that we're talking about?
That's the road we're talking about.
Okay.
It's a private road, there was Crabapple, Rosebud,
That was in a
Magnolia,
movie. That was in a movie.
and I'm forgetting one.
Red Bud.
But, well, yeah,
Yeah.
at some point. So there's a main road that comes up, and then it loops around at the top, and from the main road on the way up, there were two small side streets. All private roads.
Okay.
I never heard that they were ever intended to be dedicated to the town, because they like crossed over multiple parcels that at the time were all owned by the same entity.
So why would,
I think that one of the things that I'm concerned with is that now all that land is owned by Ace Endico.
Yes,
And they're not going to be building a residential subdivision.
correct, but that residential development, not subdivision, but development is still approved as of last I knew, hasn't been abandoned or any other proposals come through for those parcels as of yet, that I know of. But again, it is a private road, so in theory, I don't know where we stand on that. Maybe just a form of
We have
guidance.
the power to name roads for E911 purposes.
But what about
private roads.
private roads? So that's how we're involved. So I said to Nick, they wanted to do, first it was just the beginning of the road. I said, but that road that he approved went up and around and came back down. So now that Ace owns all of it, it may be a non-issue.
I have no problem with that.
I have no problem with it,
Yeah, I have no problem.
especially if it's a private road.
Yeah.
They can name it whatever they want.
Thank you, Lori.
Yep.
Fine with that. Thanks, Lori.
Okay, so our next discussion is with Olena from the Cultural Arts Coalition. She's going to give us a little update of what they're doing down there.
Do you, you're good? Okay.
Actually, there's a mic over there
Yeah, we,
on the table,
Set you up, Elena.
so you can. Oh, okay.
so
So we're
Either way.
Do you wanna-
we're live on both?
are they both on, Paul? Oh, okay.
Well, thank you, Board, for putting us on the schedule. I know that we were on the schedule maybe in April sometime, but I didn't realize that at all. I'm Elena Truscott, the president of the Town of Southeast Cultural Arts Coalition. The intent for today is to provide an overview of the coalition to the newcomers and to provide an update for the old-timers. We were last in front of the board in February of 2021 via Zoom, so lots of things have changed. We also want to set the stage for a continued goodwill partnership to take advantage, and we also we feel that things aren't going to change at the building too much over the next 2 years, and even if it does, we'll continue with our present mode, and over the next couple of years, together we can make smaller changes if the bigger changes aren't going to happen. So this is slide number 2. We're dedicated to creating and sustaining a cultural arts center and performance venue for Brewster. We are a 501c3 tax-exempt organization under the IRS and New York State rules. We're pre-qualified with the state financial system to apply for New York State funding and get grants. As required, we abide by bylaws and an array of policies. And like most organizations, we carry insurance, do annual reporting, and file tax forms. We are your tenants at the Southeast Old Town Hall at 67 Main Street. Our relationship is outlined in a memorandum of understanding signed in 2015 and a lease in 2016. Together, these documents state that the coalition and the town will work together to fully reopen the Old Town Hall Theater and sustain a cultural arts hub for the benefit of our community. The first term of our lease ends in 2026, and then at this moment, we have 2 options for 10-year renewals. Next slide. So I'm going to read this for everybody. Our incorporation mission statement is to promote and raise funds for the development and effective management of affordable, accessible performance space that will provide citizens of the town of Southeast opportunities to participate in and appreciate cultural arts, including lectures, theater, dance, film, music, visual arts, and inclusive community events. This mouthful can be distilled to making arts of all kinds affordable and accessible, both for audience and artists, and supporting the creation of a performance space. Our prime candidate was the historic Southeast Old Hall because its location at 67 Main Street is ideal. It's right in the center of the village and near a train station. It housed an exquisite theater with stunning visuals and acoustics, and it was a historic landmark in need of restoration. Next. So we were formed a few months before a bond referendum vote in 2010 to renovate the Old Town Hall. With the referendum at stake and knowing that there is a dearth of performance venues in the area, certainly none that are affordable, we embarked on what has now been a 14-year journey. Since 2010, we have celebrated the community with all sorts of arts and culture, offering hundreds of affordable opportunities at the studio around the corner, the Old Town Hall Theater, and at other local venues. And we've spearheaded the restoration of the Old Town Hall and its theater. We've raised money, we've improved the building, we've developed architectural and engineering plans, and we've brought it back to life and interest to the area. Next. Who we are. We're a 7-member, all-volunteer board. Bob Zabricki, myself, Anita Conway, who's here, Maxine Reddy, our secretary, Kathleen Abels, who had to skedaddle, Frank Funigello, who's here, and Bonnie Denmark, who's here. And we also have, in 2024, some key doers, Katie Fave, who I know you've seen many times here for Brewster Summer Music Series. Rebecca Rabinowitz, who is a real pinch hitter for our organization. She's here too. She was our Jewish Santa at the holiday tree celebration. And I have a new group that was recently written up in the paper, Daniel Basiletti, Stephanie Schleicher, and Jill Paxton, the theatricals at Old Town Hall. Marianne Fave, Katie's daughter, who lives in Brooklyn, but she's my finance person now. Peter Fiore, Andrea Levy, they have been making sure that we have art on the walls in the studio. We have a comic, Jack Ludlam, who brings his stuff in every Monday at 7:30 and holds a comedy open mic session for, from 4 to 15 people every week. Peter Simon and Jean Basiletti are publicity people, and Ellen Yass, who's kind of doing development for us. I've just found out that she loves spreadsheeting, so that's a really good thing. And Joe Beam, our technical consultant in everything theater.
That's right.
So next slide. And this is what we do. And this was put together by Stephanie Schleicher. This was an event last October.
So I would stay up late at night, and I would watch TV in the den on the floor.
This was upstairs.
Yes, this is up in the theater.
I didn't hear the footsteps anymore. So that was pretty fun. On some nights, at a certain point, and all of a sudden, I would know that I was no longer alone. And I would think, okay, it is time to get up.
This was from March, inside Emily Dickinson.
Well, let's see what happens. I will never understand what you gave, what you lost,
We're doing quarterly coffee house.
what it's like to be you running away since the age of 10.
This is also up in the theater. Event last October. I believe this will be our 4th year for the Brewster Music Festival, Summer Music Festival. This is Anita Conway's Purview. We produced the Brewster Fall Festival for 4 years. We've dropped it, but We'll participate still. This was a fun event that was very cold. Harry Potter night. So just to recap what you saw in the video, we've done a lot and are doing a lot. And the next slide lists our major creative streams and the persons leading the efforts. I'll give you handouts or you can get them online and I won't read through them. Many of the viewers are in the audience. Next slide. And as you saw, we also open up our space to other groups. It's part of our mission, and they include Hudson Valley Blues Society, who does a fourth Wednesday jam and Sunday concerts every second Sunday of the month. Cornell Cooperative Extension has used the space. The Historic Sites Commission meets on, I think, the third Wednesdays. And we've collaborated with community-based services and Mid-Hudson Art to do art shows. And Tyler Blanton is going to have his piano recital there in a week. He's a local musician who performs at Uncle Chief's on Sundays, I guess, regularly. So funding for arts programming comes mostly from private donations and corporate sponsorships of our events. The other substantial income source is arts grants. In 2023, we were fortunate to get a New York State Council on the Arts $10,000 support for organizations grant, and Putnam County also gave us money through the Putnam Arts Council. In 2024, we weren't quite so lucky, but Putnam Arts Council has given us $2,000 to do theatricals at Old Town Hall and for the concerts around the corner, not the Brewster Summer Music Series. Admission fees, recent fundraising, and facility use donations are lesser streams of income for us. In-kind services don't appear on our books, but they certainly do have an impact on our bottom line. We do not receive any sustained funding from any governmental entity, but we do appreciate the generosity of the town when it comes to our $10 per year lease. So it's kind of like a negative expense. Financials, in case you're wondering, we're small but impactful. Data show that we served almost 3,300 participants and 208 artists in 2023. In 2022, we calculated 7,000 participants, but that's because we also counted the people going in and out of the Old Town Hall during the Brewster Fall Festival and on the streets. Annual income has hovered around $50,000 for us. Expenses have ranged from $25 to $60 over the last 10 years. Our assets are now at $63,000, which includes our bank accounts and pianos and chairs and tables and things that we've just kind of accumulated over the years. We are financially stable at the moment, but small and faced with constraints of our space. It should be noted that more than $100,000 of our income has been spent on the physical building. So for the restoration, we successfully solicited through the state senate $450,000 for grant funding. It was awarded to the town, but you all had us steer those monies. We also were given a Preserve New York grant and a few technical assistance grants. So basically, with that $550,000, we've developed architectural plans under R.A. Siegel. We oversaw the window restorations, 2 contracts. We executed repairs to start reusing the theater. After the windows were done, I had a couple of building assessments done on the envelope, on the roof, on the MEP systems, mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems. And we even went so far as to go halfway in designing MEP systems, but that was about 2020. We kind of stopped the project at that point because then the developer was in the picture. I do have a detailed summary of the Old Town Hall restoration project, which I can give you as a handout. I update it every year. Next slide. I guess you can go ahead and play this while I am reading. I should have been playing it while reading. Anyway, I don't know if you all have been in. Have you been in the Old Town Hall? No. This is it.
One of my favorite pictures of my daughter at the Festival of Trees.
Yep.
that they
That
had.
was my favorite. The lift was there. Harold helped me get that lift, I think, to assess the roof. These are the window restores. Newburgh Sash and Restoration did both contracts, the museum's levels and then upper, and the one in the basement. Well, I'll keep going since we're... In January of 2023, after many attempts to get funding for the building through the New York State Consolidated Funding application rounds, we hit another milestone, being selected to receive a $500,000 grant from the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. This would be towards a $1.6 million project entitled Southeast Old Town Hall Preservation, Building Envelope and Stair. The grant requires a match of $500,000, and monies are reimbursed after the work is performed, meaning that funds have to be available to pay the contractors at the outset. In order to execute the grant, CAC must have a long-term lease because the monies will necessarily flow through us. The grant is still capable of being executed, but will depend on agreements between us and the future landlord, whoever that might be, and whether Parks and Recreation will remain patient. Next slide. So in the short term, we'll continue to focus our efforts just on arts programming, expanding use of the theater to the extent possible. The ability to raise monies or break even on events remains difficult because of the uncertainties associated with the building sale and the limitations at the building. Constraints with using the theater include its capacity limit of 49 people, no access for mobility impaired people, no heating or cooling, and there's a caveat with that, I'll explain later. The requirement to produce and get approvals for event-specific fire safety and evacuation plans. The need to call the security company to put the alarm system in test mode for events because of the unfortunate placement of the fire detection sensors. We tried to get a move last year, but it just couldn't happen, I guess. And the sparse and limited theatrical capabilities. So to improve the situation, we propose changes on our end. We would like to use a general code inspector approved fire safety and evacuation plan that doesn't require an approval each time we do something. We plan to spend the money to repair the steam heating system for the cold weather events. It'll be a Band-Aid fix for a system that should be retired once the real restoration resumes. At this point, it will cost us about $2,000. We plan to add lighting to the front facade of the theater and add real signage that says Southeast Old Town Hall Theater. Right now, there's a jury-rigged version up there. We hope to hire a part-time program director as well, because what I'm finding out lately is that not having paid staff is detrimental when it comes to grant applications. It's probably why we didn't get a NISCA grant this year, and why I was just rejected for a capital funding grant from NISCA as well. Item 6 doesn't really belong anymore, but we went ahead and repaired one of the restrooms in the theater and the burst pipes that went along with it in the museum level and down below in the basement. It was a real hit at the last event in the theater. You should go check it out and try it out. Before, people had to relieve themselves by going out the theater, navigating down the hill around the back of the building, and entering the studio. So the next slide is dense. I apologize, but I'm listing the actions the town can take to support us. This isn't the forum for you to make decisions, which leads me to my number 1 on the list, to maybe appoint a town liaison that we can work through. And other than that, I'll just go through it. Some of it is very minor, some of it is a little more detailed, but it would be great if you will go ahead and allow a general fire safety and evacuation plan for events that will be only holding up to 49 people. I think we have a track record of doing events safely, and it's just extra work for Michael. He and I discussed it. So,
Is Michael in favor of it?
yes. Number 3 was to establish a procedure to maybe post public events on the town recreation department news site. I know that Katie has managed to get Brewster Summer Music Series in there, but it would be great if we could also have some sort of link or some mechanism to get the word out via the town site. And then here's another request to allow us to use Veterans Park at no charge in service of Brewster Summer Music Series. So and then the next few are kind of physical things. Move the parking blocks that are at the trailer in the back away from the bed about 3 feet so that we can get a wheelbarrow through and to prevent drivers from damaging the wall. Somebody drove into the wall last week and it's bammed in.
That's a popular thing in Brewster. Someone drove through the front of our building, too.
Yeah. Another thing that would help is, and you know, we can always call up Mark and the recreation department to get the key, but if one of us could be deputized to make sure the document storage in the back is secure, if I could have a key so that I could get in there when we have a plumber in there or when the heating guy comes in, or like right now there is a dead mouse smell, and I think it's behind the locked section because I already cleaned the front section out. Maybe you could spruce up the garden bed on Main Street, right contiguous to the building. It's kind of fenced in and has garbage in it.
Except for the historic Brewster sign. There's like a historic Brewster sign and then
Oh, okay.
does that belong to the town or the village?
I think it's a town property, right? It's right, kind of diagonal. It was fenced off. It's in front of the bushes, the yew bushes. As you go into the parking lot. I think that whole property is town property. The parking lot is,
In front of the building fenced off?
yeah,
That is part of the town property.
yeah. It's part of that same parcel, I recall. And I kind of would like you to confirm that electric, water, and sewage charges are going to be waived until metering is in place. It makes it hard to plan. The last thing on my list might be pie in the sky, but I just recently read an article. Ken Burns, the acclaimed filmmaker, recently gave a commencement address in which he stated, "Insist that government support science and the arts, especially the arts. They have nothing to do with the actual defense of the country. They just make our country worth defending." And on the local level, you could say that the arts may seemingly have little to do with the actual running of the town. They just make our town worth running. My dig for the arts lovers in here. And some side effects of our presence in the building: we do provide visibility for a town cultural resource. We caretake it to some extent. We provide jobs for working artists and other. Not a lot of money, but we do. Most of our expenses are for paying artists and musicians. We provide community service opportunities for students and special needs population and justice-involved persons. We feel that we're momentum for the revitalization of Brewster Village and for the town becoming an arts and culture destination. And over the years, we've provided resources for the town board. You know, at times I felt like I had a boss preparing budget data, for state Senate grants and tech specs for the window contracts and that kind of thing. So my takeaway message is, despite the uncertainty of the past couple of years, we've stayed the course, building momentum with a vibrant arts group of old and new volunteers who are inspired to create and share their love of art. I hope this presentation provides you with a better sense of what we're doing, and imagine what would happen with a stronger partnership and money as you finalize your plans with the developer, National Resources. Please keep us in the loop. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Did I miss
Olena.
anything, people?
Olena, you'll send us a copy of this, or your copy of your requests?
Yeah, I think I missed talking about the signage in the parking lot as well. Is there any possibility that some of those signs could be more friendly? Because people come into the parking lot for events and it says 1 hour parking only, or town employee only, library only.
I guess we could talk to Mike about that, but I would assume 1 hour so that people that are on the street are parking in there. I can't talk to it unless I see what Mike thinks.
Joe, could you?
You know, to say that, you know,
On the last
the-
very slide is pictures of the parking signs. This might be the thing for the town liaison.
we're,
Go to the very end there. Keep going. There you go. Just a thought.
Can they, if you have an event, can they be covered? You know,
Is it-
as
is
they
it okay
do?
to
I don't,
create
I
some
doubt
sort
we
of
would
a
have to clear it.
never ask for permission.
Yeah.
Olena.
Yeah.
If it's dark
That's our
out.
experience.
I know that. I've learned that lesson.
Too late, now you have to.
Would that apply to the lot
Um,
behind, the commuter lot behind?
What?
Other signs.
Oh, actually, Olena, you gotta,
Thank
sorry,
you.
for the record.
Would it be proper to, I shouldn't ask permission either for this, to go ahead and, go ahead and put a sign over the signs for the back Metro North parking?
I
To
would
say
say no to that.
Temporary for event only?
It's not our parking lot,
Whose is it?
MTA.
Okay.
And we've learned,
No, there is. It says permit parking only.
Well,
I think that's during the day.
Yeah, what
To
are,
be
what are
honest.
the hours? Are there specific, it doesn't say what the hours are. It says permit parking only. So if you're somebody coming from out of
You
town and
can
There's
give,
signs, but they're not that obvious.
you can give Anne Marie, our parking person, a call tomorrow and ask her that. She'll be able to answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, and send us a list of the requests. I'm sure Nick will go through it and respond.
I also forgot to mention the broken railway there. It should probably be fixed. It's been a couple years now, but it's.
What? Oh, the
Oh, the
railing?
Top left.
The handrail.
The handrail, the bottom is come apart from the base.
Okay.
It's rusted.
Yeah.
That's right by the walkway. And then the left side picture is where somebody drove into the retaining wall there.
A lot of bad
Yeah, but
drivers in this.
Send us the list of the requests. We are in a little bit of a weird position, right? Because we're in contract to sell it. And well, depends who you ask.
Yeah.
When is that going to
It
happen?
may never happen, the way things are going. Honestly, I don't know, but I think the last update we got was, you know, unofficially within the next few months, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
I'd like to thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
That shows that you guys care about this. Appreciate it.
Best part of that building is those little changing rooms
In the front.
behind
Yeah.
the stage. I didn't see those.
Oh,
so
the,
those are my favorite.
Yeah, we saw that. That
Yeah.
was great.
Me
I
and
loved
Wendy
the
went
whole
on it, so-
building.
So what I got the feedback for the last grant application that was not successful. One of the comments was, what plans have you made to make the dressing rooms accessible for handicapped persons? I don't even know how to get my mind around that one, but
Well, thanks for coming, Alina. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. So to just move forward into our next discussion, zoning code uses, no charitable philanthropic uses. I think, Will, would you speak to that?
What we've tasked our planner to do, because we did run into a situation where there was going to be somewhat of a intense use in a residential zone under the guise of being a philanthropic use. It created a lot of difficulty in the community. And fortunately, the applicant has withdrawn their application, but it did raise the question that we need to tighten up our zoning code so that you know, a philanthropic office can certainly coexist in a residential community, but a philanthropic organization that teaches shooting sports wouldn't go well in a or a large kennel, which is really what was going on. So we're going to, Ashley is aware of this, so she's going to try to put some words together that will make our code a little less ambiguous, and promote the issues that were meant to be promoted when we wanted to have philanthropic uses in residential zones. So that's about all I have at
All right,
this
no,
point.
that's,
Thanks,
thank
Will.
you.
Yep.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we can go right into our regular meeting. I make a motion to go into the regular meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I waive the reading of the correspondence.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to approve the voucher list in the amount of $1,523,624.69.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the budget transfers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to set the meeting dates and public hearings. All meetings will be held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 PM unless otherwise noted. Thursday, June 13th, 2024. Thursday, June 27th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to set a public hearing for a local law imposing a 6-month moratorium. I didn't say that right. Moratorium on the acceptance on review of any application to establish a lithium battery storage facility within the town of Southeast.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a few resolutions to take care of.
What was the date for that public hearing?
It's the 13th, the next
Okay.
next board meeting.
Oh, it's on the 13th?
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks. Vic. Okay, so our first resolution is for Caramount Medical Health Solutions. It's a special permit resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board and the town of Southeast hereby makes the following findings of fact in connection with the instant application. Number one, the proposed use in such a location is a size and character that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the surrounding district and will not be detrimental to the immediate site or adjacent properties. Number two, the location and size of the proposed use, the nature and intensity of operations involved in or conducted in connection therewith, its site layout and its relation to access streets will be such that both pedestrian and vehicular traffic to and from the use and the assembly of the persons in connection therewith will not be hazardous. Number three, any proposed changes to the existing exterior appearance of the buildings will not hinder or discourage the development and use of adjacent land and buildings. Number 4, the proposed use will not require such additional public facilities or services or create fiscal burdens upon the town greater than those which characterize uses permitted of the right, as of right. And be it further resolved that based upon the foregoing findings, the town board of the town of Southeast hereby grants a special use permit to Caramount Health Solutions, LLC, to allow the establishment and operation of medical office urgent care facility consisting of approximately 5,699 square feet of tenant space on the subject premise owned by MG Highlands Corporation in accordance with the statement of use prepared and submitted to the planning board in connection with this project development plan application on the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall construct and operate the facility in compliance with all general conditions set forth in Article X of the zoning code and any special conditions set forth in Section 138-63.10 of the zoning code, together with any special conditions set forth herein. 2, hours of operation shall be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday through Saturday. 3, all employees of proposed medical office urgent care facility, including professional and non-professional staff, shall be required to park in available spaces furthest from the building containing the medical office urgent care facility, so to facilitate the use of proximate parking spaces for and by the patients of the medical office and the retail restaurant customers of the shopping center. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to Caramount Health Solutions, LLC, MG Highlands Corporation, the Planning Board, and the Southeast Building Department forthwith. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Our second resolution is Barn Dog Farm, LLC, tax map 80-1.1-3.1, bond establishment. Now therefore it be resolved, the bond amount shall be established for the project set forth. Project name Barn Dog Farm Equestrian Facility. Site improvements, $1,440,000. Erosion and sediment control, $188,700. And be it further resolved that no permits for this site work, building, and construct shall be issued until an erosion and sediment control performance bond or other satisfactory security has been established and the requisite inspection fees have been paid. And be it further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to Barn Dog Farm, LLC, the planning board secretary, and building inspector forthwith. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, our third is the Town of Southeast Highway Department. I thought Mike was going to be here tonight. I guess I was wrong. So the resolution is, now therefore be it resolved that the town highway superintendent is authorized to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with Fulton Montgomery County Community College to purchase one 2016 International 4300 plow truck, VIN number 1HTMMMM N6GH380639 from Fulton Montgomery County Community College for the sum of $45,000. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I would actually like to amend the agenda to set another resolution for Salinger's Orchard site plan amendment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
you waive the rules.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
That's what you do.
Okay.
Okay, now therefore be it resolved that the bond amount shall be established for the project set forth below. Project name is Salinger's Orchard Site Plan, site improvements, $275,000. Erosion and sediment control, $19,363. And be it further resolved that no permits for site work, building, and construct shall be issued until an erosion and sediment control performance bond or other satisfactory security has been established and the requisite inspection fees have been paid. And be it further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to Salinger's Orchard, the planning board secretary, and building inspector. So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would again like to amend the agenda
Long night.
to set a resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't say what it was for. It was Star Ridge Manor Water District Infrastructure Improvement Program. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to make and file any and all letters of intent, applications, agreements, or other documents with the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation seeking to access grants through the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Program. Such funds to be used in connection with the water quality improvements to be made at Star Ridge Manor Water District necessitated by the infiltration of certain emerging contaminants in the drinking water supply. And be it further resolved that any and all actions herefore taken in this regard are hereby ratified and confirmed. I'm sorry, Will?
Non-pro-tunc.
Non-pro-tunc.
That's Latin.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Will, I'm Italian. I'd like to amend the agenda to set another resolution for Birch Hill.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is a resolution for the Birch Hill Highview Water Infrastructure Improvement Program. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to make and file any and all letters of intent, applications, agreements, or other documents with the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation seeking to access grants, funds through the New York State Water Infrastructure Program. Such funds to be used in connection with water quality improvements to be made at Birch Hill. Hillcrest Water District necessitated by infiltration of certain emerging contaminants in the drinking water supply. And be it further resolved that any and all actions hereforth taken in this regard are hereby ratified and confirmed. Non-pro-tunc. So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would like to amend the agenda once more to set a resolution for 20 Farrington Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's another performance bond. Now therefore be it resolved that the bond amount shall be established from the project set forth below. 11 Jam Site Plan, 20 Farrington Road, site improvement and erosion sediment control, $6,100. And be it further resolved that no permits for this site work, building, and construction shall be issued until an erosion and sediment control performance bond or other satisfactory security has been established and the requisite inspection fees have been paid. And be it further resolved that the certified copy of this resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to 11th Jam Development LLC, the planning board secretary, and the building inspector forthwith. So moved?
Second. Did you have a comment, Harold?
Oh, yeah.
Before we approve it, or no? Huh?
What?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Oh, right, thank you. We'll give it to Kathy. Thank you, Howard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Howard.
Not a bride.
You're coming up to the podium. Okay. Okay, so that concludes our meeting. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak or be recognized? Just give us your name and where you live.
So they won't walk from the back. So I apologize. Robert Cullen, 560 Brewster Hill Road, Southeast New York, 10509.
Hey, Bob.
How are you?
All right.
Good. Just a couple of things I want to discuss. Some things were brought to my attention by some former and current town employees, which is somewhat concerning. Well, before I start with that, I want to thank you for the moratorium, for passing it for the batteries. As we see what's going on in Carmel now, it's could be happening here next, so we're kind of ahead of the game, and Carmel wasn't, so that's a good thing. And also, I know in the past couple of months, you passed a moratorium for vape shops.
That was actually before me, but yeah.
Oh, it was before you? Okay, well.
I think we.
I was going to give you the credit for it.
We
Nick,
did,
so,
we
yeah.
didn't
No, the
pass a
resolution
moratorium, we
Well, for
We shut it
restricted
down.
them.
Yeah.
restricted them, right, so. Yeah, because I know I spoke to Eric about it and the other Eric, when I saw the one next to Wings Over Water, I was just like, this is ridiculous, and they're just popping up everywhere, not just in Southeast and other communities. But anyway, hopefully we can curtail some of that. So the reason I'm here, though, is thanks to Kathy, I was able to get some town documents through FOIL. So the town has a policy that part-time employees are only allowed to work 975 hours a year. So last year, there was one town employee that worked approximately 1,200 hours, which goes over that cap. I don't know how something like that would happen. I mean, there should be a supervisor in place to make sure that doesn't happen. A part-time employee, according to the town policy, should only work 18.75 hours a week, I think it said. I know you weren't here last year, Nick, so I'm not blaming you for this or whatever.
No, that's okay, because we actually, even before we heard from you, I had spoken with Ron, our accountant, and I asked him that question. I said, what if somebody goes over that allotted time? And he kind of really didn't even know the answer, so we're going to pay attention to that this year.
Right, okay, because I think the concern is, from some other employees, is why is this one person being treated specially, and they assume it's because he is married to the town assessor. The other, what? I'm sorry, I heard you moaning.
It has nothing to do with me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you, Lori.
Right, so the issue is too, that he also, so for working 1,200 hours, as a parking enforcement officer, which he took a test for, he only wrote 135 tickets. So, like, you know, what does that come out to? I mean, you know, that's extremely low. So what does this person do all day? And he makes $20-something thousand a year. It doesn't seem to be cost effective to have somebody pay him $20,000 a year to write 135 tickets for the year, when every time I go to Acme and all the other shopping centers, there's cars parked illegally all the time in the fire zones.
So in lieu of that, he's actually been helping our building inspector with things that the building inspector can't do due to time constraints. None of the things that he is doing involves licenses or education, not to say that he's not educated. And the other thing too with the parking, we have another parking enforcement officer. So, you know, if that person's running around doing other things for the building inspector,
Right.
you know.
So my concern is, being somewhat familiar with civil service law, he took a test for one position. Is he allowed under civil service law to do things that is out of his job title? It doesn't seem like he should be doing that. Now, there's other civil service tests for like code enforcement officer or clerks. If he's doing administrative work, that's like a clerk's position, which means somebody else should be doing that. So, you know, I don't know what it, you know.
That one
why
I can't answer. I'd have to.
Right.
you
So
know.
I actually did send an email to Paul Elridge's office, and
Did he return yours? He doesn't
No, he
return
didn't
mine.
return anything to me yet. I don't know. So I'm waiting to, find out. I'll give him another couple of days or another week and see if he, does it. But I think it's concerning. There's some other personnel issues that I heard occurred. I mean, a civil servant for the town who took a test worked here for over 10 years with a good record was told he was fired because he got into a car accident, a minor car accident, and then he was unfired, and now he's back to work, which is a good thing. But it's just like, you don't treat people like that. It was really improper, and
Not necessarily. He crashed twice in 1 week, and in speaking with the town attorney, we agreed that that was the course of action to take, and it was my mistake to not do my diligence to know that he was a civil employee. That's why he came back. That's just the way that went.
I don't think that, well, like I said,
We're
I
not
think that's a
targeting-
little extreme,
We're not targeting anyone.
So, okay, so then going forward, so any town employee gets into two car accidents, they're gonna be fired then?
Just, there were insurance restrictions as well, so that was another thing. So
Wow.
it wasn't completely
Well,
within.
well, I just think that was a little
No,
extreme.
The process, Bob, was that a formal disciplinary proceeding was commenced, and it was resolved.
Well, not originally. Originally, he was told he was fired.
It was completed. It was completed in accordance with the proper regulations.
Yeah, well, okay, well, it's resolved. And then, just also on personnel issues, just come to my attention that you had two very good employees leave Southeast. One went to, I think, Tarrytown, and one went to Carmel. And I heard they both cited low pay in Southeast. Now, as a taxpayer, as we all are, whatever, living in the town, I mean, obviously we, have to pay a decent, a salary that's, not gonna break the bank, but we also have to pay employees well, decent salaries so that they're not gonna be leaving, because it's not cost effective for us to have employees here and then they leave to go somewhere else with their
No,
knowledge, and
I
now
com-
we're stuck having to try to find somebody else.
I completely agree with that. I would say almost every town member, every town employee does their job well, and a lot of them go a little further. So it's a big challenge this year because both contracts are up, and, we're going to work hard to get this budget correct and take care of our employees.
Right. Okay, because I agree with you. I mean, I think the employees in Southeast overall do a really good job,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, I don't want to train somebody and lose them to go on.
well, right, and that's,
Yeah.
so not really related to us, but the city of Mount Vernon, their police department, within the last 4 years, they lost over 100 officers who went to other departments because of low pay. So we don't want to be like the Mount Vernon of Putnam County here, so just, all right, so I just wanted to make sure you,
And this is a question for you, Bob, I'm just wondering if they raised those concerns or they left and then cited those as reasons, but it's something we should look into,
Right.
that's all.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming they had exit interviews, I guess, with their supervisors. I don't know how it works, but I was told that it was because of low pay, so.
No, it was. They did say that when they left, but one was from the courts too, so the courts, they talk to the judges, they don't talk to us.
No, I understand that, but I'm just, it's, right, it's something that we just have to keep in mind. So, all right, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you for
I
coming. We
appreciate it.
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Bob.
Does anybody else need to come on up? I have to say, Matt, you hung out the whole time. We appreciate that. See what happens. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Scott Seaman, Town of
Scott.
Southeast. First, as a member of the Finance Board of Brewster Schools, I wanted to thank the community for their support of the bond vote. And I do appreciate that the community has turned out to support education in the schools. I do have a couple of questions myself. I wanted to thank on that water presentation. I have noticed over the last 6 to 8 months, the water presentations have gotten a lot more thorough, a lot more informative.
We're experts now, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We dream about it
So
every
don't
night.
hire people anymore. You guys can just take the job yourself.
I don't know if you want that.
But having my own well, thankfully, I don't have to deal with some of these.
You
but
may have it, though.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But you can take that away from me, I've heard. Thank you for the clarification on the charitable, for the philanthropic uses. I know a lot of people up in that area, and it was of great concern. My one question is that restricted to zone 160s? 60 have that philanthropic code part as part of it as well, or is it just the 160 districts?
I don't know off the top of my head, but all philanthropic uses, whatever districts they're permitted in, are subject to a special permit, which is why it was going to ultimately roost here in the town board. And as you saw, the public outcry when something like that is proposed, that may very well negatively impact the property values of adjoining properties. People get a little upset.
Yep, and as a member of the zoning board, I was very happy that it didn't have to come to us, and we would have to vote on it.
That was a tough
So we thank you for that. I just wanted to ask a question in regards to the Claremont property. I know Councilwoman Lewis had asked for information in regards to traffic volume, parking, and I just wanted to make sure that you had gotten that information and you were happy with being in that field and that you were...
Yeah, not
Yeah.
without concerns for that parking lot.
Right.
But the volumes that they gave me, I did a little research and I was able to compare them to the retail volume. I think, I do have my concerns, but
It's a tight parking lot either way.
it's a tight parking lot, it is. And my thought was, an ambulance coming in here and there could,
Yeah, thank you for being thorough on
Thank
that.
you.
That was good to hear. And of course, I'll be back up the moratoriums, all these things, because I noticed Senator Harkin now is in favor of moratoriums in Carmel, and I've never
I think
seen
he's
that
in
before.
favor
So
of
if you didn't have a moratorium, you can invite him. You can invite him to come to speak on the moratorium, then hit him with the water question.
I think he was in favor of a public hearing for a moratorium.
Yes,
I don't
yes,
think he went beyond
I noticed
that.
the wording was very specific, but
Yeah.
thank you for your efforts.
thanks,
Thank you.
Scott.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Scott.
Scott was voted to the school board last week. So we're glad to have him on board.
I don't know, do we say congratulations for
No,
that,
you
Scott?
don't.
Is it thank
She voted against.
Does anyone else from the public like to come up?
Matt, you have nothing?
Y'all good?
I take that back.
No, it's positive. So on behalf of part of I'm on the Brewster Little League board now. I run the T-ball division, and I just want to give my gratitude and my thanks to some town southeast employees that are maintaining Tenetta Field. We've been getting a lot of good feedback on specific because we're there every week. So they've been doing a really good job. So whoever maintains those, I think there's a Smitty. Yeah, I met
We bought him
him.
a
Nice guy.
brand new
Yeah.
field
He
groomer.
got a big.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
but he must like it then. But
man.
I just want to express, on behalf of all the coaches from the Coach Pitch League and the T-Ball League, roughly 15 or 20 guys and girls, they notice it, and me being part of the league for a couple of years now, it's very noticeable, so.
Less maintenance for the
Thank you.
coaches and things like that,
Yeah,
right?
but it's,
Less field prep.
we're working in conjunction, and it's noticeable.
Good.
So,
Great.
and it reflects well on the town.
We got two
Yeah,
big little
exactly.
leaguers
Sorry,
down
Mitch.
here.
So we thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Matt.
Great
Thanks,
comment.
Matt.
Yes, that was fabulous. Great way to end. Does anybody from the board have anything?
No.
they wanna talk about?
I don't.
Make a motion to close the meeting?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.